The fever wasn't even that bad, just 100.2 degrees. I went to family dinner anyway because Mom insisted. It was important, she said, with the trust fund ceremony coming up. My sister Kate's twins were finally turning 18, and Grandpa's millions would be distributed. I should have known something was wrong when they all wore masks to dinner. It's just the flu, I said, watching them keep their distance. The doctor already gave me Tamiflu. We can't risk it, Kate said, exchanging looks with Mom. The ceremony's in 3 days. The kids can't get sick. That's when Dad suggested I rest in the attic guest room. Just for tonight, he said, until the fever breaks. The attic of our Victorian family home had been converted years ago into a suite, bedroom, bathroom, even a small sitting area. As a kid, I loved staying up there, pretending it was my private tower. I didn't love hearing the key turn in the lock. Just a precaution, Mom called through the door. We'll bring up some soup later. I was too tired to argue. The flu, or whatever it was, made my head fuzzy. I curled up on the bed, listening to the familiar creaks of the old house. That's when I heard the cars starting. First, the distinctive rumble of Dad's Mercedes, then Kate's SUV, finally Mom's Lexus. One by one, they pulled out of the circular driveway. They left me, locked in the attic, alone. My phone was dead. I'd forgotten my charger at home. The landline in the attic had been disconnected years ago. Even the Wi-Fi didn't reach up here. Don't panic, I told myself. They'll be back soon. But as the sun set and the attic grew dark, another thought crept in. Cousin Michael had gotten sick right before his trust fund distribution 5 years ago. They'd sent him to rest at the lake house. He never came back. The official story was that he checked himself into rehab, embarrassed about a relapse, but Michael had been clean for years. I just had coffee with him the week before he disappeared. Getting up made my head spin, but I forced myself to explore the attic. There had to be something, some way to contact someone or get out. The old filing cabinets caught my eye. Mom's meticulous record-keeping meant everything was archived up here, including, maybe, medical records. The cabinet labeled Family Medical, Confidential was unlocked. Inside, I found files going back decades. Michael's was there, thick with papers. So was Aunt Sarah's. She'd gotten pneumonia right before her share of Grandma's estate was due. And Cousin David's, food poisoning, it said, before he was supposed to inherit the summer house. Hands shaking, I opened Michael's file. The medical reports inside weren't from any rehab. They were toxicology screens showing elevated levels of metals I couldn't pronounce. Deliberate poisoning, according to the doctor's notes. Notes that had been copied to my mother's email. The room spun, and not just from fever. In every case, a relative had gotten mysteriously ill before they were due to inherit. In every case, they'd vanished. And in every case, their share had been redistributed to the remaining family members. To my mother, my sister, and my father. A new file caught my eye, one with my name on it. Inside were recent lab reports, insurance policies, and a draft obituary dated 3 days from now. The day of the trust fund ceremony. My flu wasn't an accident, and they hadn't locked me up here to protect the kids. They locked me up to die. I stumbled to the window, but the 3rd floor drop was too dangerous. The door was solid oak, the lock unpickable. The walls were original thick Victorian construction. No one would hear me scream. They'd chosen the perfect prison. But they'd made one mistake, leaving the evidence where I could find it. My laptop was in my bag. No Wi-Fi, but the hard drive worked fine. I photographed every document, every report, every piece of evidence with my phone's camera. Then I transferred the photos to a hidden folder. If, when I got out of here, they'd pay for everything. For Michael. For Sarah. For David. For whatever poison was working its way through my system right now. A car door slammed downstairs. They were back. Footsteps on the stairs. Keys jingling. I quickly replaced the files, dove into bed, and tried to look weak and feverish. Not that it was hard. Whatever they'd given me was getting worse. Mom entered carrying soup. She wasn't wearing a mask anymore. "How are you feeling, sweetie?" Her voice dripped concern, but her eyes were calculating. "Terrible," I whispered, watching her set down the soup. "When can I go home?" "Soon," she promised. "Just rest. Everything will be over soon." I waited until she left, listened for the lock turning again. The soup stayed untouched. In the growing darkness, I reviewed my options. I was locked in, poisoned, and running out of time. But I had evidence. I just needed to survive long enough to use it. My mind went to the old laundry chute, sealed up years ago, but still behind the wallpaper. If I could break through, maybe I could drop my laptop down to the second floor. Maybe it would be found. Or maybe I could use the ancient servant's bell system. The wires still ran through the walls. If I could access them, create a short circuit, a fire alarm would bring help. But first, I needed to understand what they'd given me. I returned to the files, speed reading through medical terms until I found it. Thallium. Slow acting, progressive, but treatable with the right antidote. An antidote that would be in any hospital's emergency room. The house creaked and settled. Somewhere below, I heard voices, my family discussing my deterioration over late-night coffee, no doubt. My loving family, who'd killed before and would kill again. My vision blurred, but I forced myself to focus. I had maybe 48 hours before the poison became critical. 2 days to either escape or get evidence to the outside world. 2 days to stop them from adding my name to their list of family casualties. I looked around my prison with new eyes. The heavy furniture, the old wiring, the structural weaknesses of a Victorian attic. They thought they'd locked away a sick, helpless victim. Instead, they'd locked themselves in a house with someone who had nothing left to lose. Let them drink their coffee. Let them think their plan was working. I had evidence, desperation, and the advantage they didn't know I had. The truth. The attic had always been my favorite place in the house. Time to remind them why. First, I needed to document everything, my current symptoms, a timeline of events, my suspicions. I typed quickly on my laptop, saving multiple copies in hidden folders. Then I examined every inch of my prison. The servants' quarters had been built with secret passages and maintenance access points. Victorian houses had a skeleton of hidden spaces behind their respectable facades. Just like my family. I heard Mom coming up again, probably to check if I'd eaten the soup, probably to add more poison if I had. My fever was rising, but my mind was clear. They'd chosen this room carefully, but they'd forgotten something crucial. I'd grown up playing here. I knew its secrets, and I knew something they didn't. Sometimes the most dangerous person isn't the one with the most power. It's the one with nothing left to lose. As Mom's footsteps approached, I smiled despite the fever. They thought they were writing my ending. They didn't realize they were writing their own. The key turned in the lock. Game on. Mom's face showed practiced concern as she checked the untouched soup bowl. Sweetie, you need to eat something. Keep your strength up. I let my voice shake. I can't keep anything down. I'll bring some crackers later, she said, lifting the bowl. Her designer watch caught the light, a gift from Aunt Sarah's redistributed inheritance. After she left, I waited 15 minutes to make sure she wouldn't return unexpectedly. Then I moved to the corner where the old servant's bell system connected to the wall. The brass fixture had been painted over decades ago, but behind it, my fingers found the edge and pulled. The metal plate came away, revealing a narrow shaft and dusty wires. Victorian houses were built with an intricate nervous system of bells, speaking tubes, and dumbwaiters. Most had been sealed up, but the infrastructure remained, a skeleton of connectivity hidden in the walls. My hands shook as I worked, either from the poison or the adrenaline. The wire coating was old, easy to strip with my nail file. One spark could trigger the fire alarm system, bring help, exposure, salvation. But that was a last resort. Fire meant chaos, and chaos meant they might destroy the evidence. I needed something smarter. The house's Wi-Fi didn't reach the attic, but the Ethernet cable did. I could see it snaking up through the floor, connected to a dead port. Dead because they'd disabled it, but not removed it. I pried open the port cover. The cable was simply unplugged. With trembling fingers, I reconnected it. My laptop sprang to life with connectivity. Now I had minutes, maybe seconds, before they noticed the attic's IP address on the network. I worked fast, uploading the photos to a secure cloud drive. Then I opened my email. To Detective Marcus Rodriguez. Subject: Evidence of multiple murders. I typed rapidly, explaining everything. The inheritances, the pattern of mysterious illnesses, the evidence I've found. I attached the photos and added, if you're reading this, I'm either dead or about to be. I'm locked in the attic of 1847 Maple Grove Road. poisoned with thallium. Previous victims: Michael Chen, Sarah Blackwood, David Mitchell. Send. The Ethernet light blinked once, twice. The connection died. They'd noticed. Footsteps pounded up the stairs. Multiple sets. I quickly replaced the port cover and dove into bed, sliding the laptop under the mattress. The door burst open. Dad stood there, face red. The internet cable, where is it? I blinked groggily. What cable? He stormed to the port, found it reconnected. Behind him, Mom and Kate exchanged looks. Who did you contact? Kate demanded. I let my voice slur slightly. I just wanted to check my work email. Her phone, Mom said sharply. Check her phone. But my dead phone showed them nothing, and they didn't know about the laptop. Dad ripped the Ethernet cable completely out of the wall. No more chances. What are you talking about? I struggled to sit up. Why are you acting so strange? The fever's making you paranoid, Mom soothed. Rest now. They left, but not before adding a second lock to the door. I waited until their footsteps faded, then checked my laptop. The email had sent. Detective Rodriguez had helped with Michael's missing person case. He'd know what to do. If he got the email in time. My head pounded. The poison was working faster than I thought. I needed a backup plan. The servants' bell wires were still exposed. Victorian houses had another feature. Their plaster walls amplified sound. With the right setup, I could turn the whole wire system into a crude microphone. I pressed my ear to the wire junction and heard fragments of conversation from below. Getting suspicious. Speed things up. Can't risk. Tonight then. They weren't going to wait 3 days. I looked at the soup bowl they'd left, the crackers Mom promised, the water glass by my bed. Everything was potentially lethal now. But they'd made another mistake. The attic bathroom had an old clawfoot tub and original plumbing. Victorian plumbing stacks ran straight down through the house. They were essentially giant speaking tubes, and the bathroom vent. I dragged myself to the bathroom, fighting dizziness. The vent cover came off easily. Above it was the original roof vent, a direct line to the outside. Sound carried up, which meant it could carry down. I took out my phone, dead for calls, but the speaker still worked. I had one audio file that might save me, a recording from the last party when Michael had pulled me aside. Something's wrong, he'd said. Mom's been acting strange since Grandpa changed the will. Watch your back. I kept it because it was the last time I heard his voice. Now I placed the phone speaker against the vent pipe and hit play at maximum volume. Michael's voice echoed down the pipe, through the walls. They're planning something. The inheritance? Have to tell someone. A crash from downstairs. Screaming. They'd heard his ghost. While they panicked, I used the last of my strength to pry up the loose floorboard where I used to hide as a child. Inside was a dusty treasure, Grandpa's old journal. He'd given it to me months before he died, made me promise to hide it. Read it if anything happens to me, he'd said, or to anyone else in the family. I've forgotten about it until now. The journal fell open to a marked page. Margaret, Mom, asked about changes to the will again. Suspicious after Sarah's death. Must protect the others. Evidence in safe deposit box 471 First National. Grandpa had known. He'd left evidence. A key fell from between the pages, not to the safe deposit box, but to the old dumbwaiter shaft behind the attic wall. They hadn't found all the house's secrets. But I could barely stand now. The poison was winning. I heard them coming up the stairs again. Panic turned to fury. I had the journal, the laptop, the evidence. But in my condition, I'd never survive another confrontation. The dumbwaiter would have to wait. I slid everything back into the hiding spot just as the door flew open. Kate held a syringe. Enough games. Time to sleep, sis. The fever's making her dangerous, Mom said from behind her. Do it. I tried to fight, but the poison had weakened me too much. The needle stung. As consciousness faded, I heard Dad say, "Move everything tonight. No more delays." Then darkness. But they still didn't know what I knew. Detective Rodriguez had my email. Grandpa had left evidence. And somewhere in this house, a dumbwaiter waited with its secrets. I just had to survive long enough to use them. The sedative pulled me under, but I held on to one thought. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to die on schedule. I woke to darkness and voices arguing downstairs. The sedative had worn off. But the thallium poisoning was worse. My vision blurred, muscles cramped. According to the medical files, I had maybe 12 hours before organ failure began. The house was quiet except for those distant voices. Through the servants' bell wiring, fragments drifted up. Rodriguez asking questions. Move her tonight. Lake house? Like Michael. The lake house, where Michael had supposedly gone to rehab, where they probably disposed of his body. My time was running out. With trembling hands, I felt along the wall where Grandpa's journal had shown the dumbwaiter entrance should be. The wallpaper was thick with age, but underneath I found the seam. Peeling it back revealed a small door, perfectly preserved. The key from Grandpa's journal fit. Inside was a shaft barely wide enough for a person, with a platform and ancient pulley system. It had been used to send food and linens up to the servants' quarters, or in my case, to send someone down. But 3 floors was a long way to fall if the ropes broke. More voices from below, getting suspicious. Tonight, after dark, make it look like. I didn't have a choice. The lake house meant death. The dumbwaiter meant a chance. I gathered everything I needed. Grandpa's journal, my laptop, the phone with Michael's recording. All the evidence went into my shoulder bag. The hardest part was pulling myself onto the platform. The poison had weakened me severely, and every movement sent spikes of pain through my muscles. Finally, I managed to crouch on the small square of wood. The pulley system had 2 ropes, one to control descent, one as a safety brake. I took a deep breath and began lowering myself. The ropes creaked but held. Inch by inch, I descended through the dark shaft. Past the 2nd floor, where light leaked through cracks around a sealed door. Past the 1st floor, where I heard Mom's voice directly through the wall. We should check on her. I froze. If they found me gone. Footsteps on the attic stairs. Then screaming. She's gone. The walls, check the walls. Find her. The house erupted in chaos. Footsteps thundered above and below me. 10 feet from the basement, the rope jammed. I hung there, swaying, as my family tore the house apart looking for me. The cramps were getting worse. My vision swam. Something warm trickled from my nose. Blood. The poison was progressing. Below me, the basement door opened. Light spilled in. Dad's voice. The dumbwaiter. Check the old shaft. I had seconds. The safety rope was stuck, but the main line. I let go. The platform dropped. I hit the basement floor hard, rolling to absorb the impact. Pain exploded through my body. But I was down. Flashlight beams swept the basement. I crawled behind the old furnace just as feet descended the stairs. The platform's down here, Kate called up. She must have used it. Find her. Mom screamed. She has evidence. I waited until they moved to the far corner, then slipped toward the coal chute. Another Victorian relic, a small tunnel leading outside. It was tight, filthy, but I squirmed through. Fresh air hit my face as I emerged into the side yard. Lights blazed from the house. I could hear them searching, getting closer. My legs barely worked. The poison was winning. But Grandpa's safe deposit box was waiting, and Detective Rodriguez would have gotten my email by now. I just had to reach the street. I made it 10 feet before Kate spotted me. There. I ran, or tried to. My poisoned body felt like lead. Footsteps behind me, getting closer. The street was just ahead. Headlights approached, a car. I stumbled into the road, waving frantically. The car swerved, brakes squealing. Behind me, Kate cursed. The driver's door opened. Detective Rodriguez stepped out, gun drawn. FBI. Everyone freeze. More cars appeared, lights flashing. Men in tactical gear swarmed the yard. I collapsed as Rodriguez reached me. Ambulance is coming, he said. Got your email. Found the safe deposit box. You're going to be okay. Through blurring vision, I watched them handcuff my family. Mom was screaming about misunderstandings. Dad demanded lawyers. Kate just stared at me with pure hatred. The evidence, I gasped, holding out my bag. Grandpa's journal. Michael. We know, Rodriguez said gently. We found him. The lake house. He'd left his own evidence. We just needed proof of who did it. Sirens wailed closer. My heart was racing too fast. The poison was burning through me. Stay with me, Rodriguez urged. You've done the hard part. Now let us help. As paramedics loaded me into the ambulance, I saw Mom being pushed into a police car. She caught my eye one last time. I smiled. Sometimes the best revenge is simply surviving. The antidote burned going in, but not as much as the poison had. In the hospital, I watched the news break. Prominent family arrested for multiple murders. Inheritance scheme uncovered. Missing persons cases solved. Rodriguez visited, updating me on the investigation. They'd found everything: bodies, evidence, money trails. My family's carefully constructed facade had crumbled. "You should know," he said, "your grandfather suspected. That's why he left the journal, changed his will. He was trying to protect the next victims." "Me," I said. He nodded. "You were next. But you did what no one else could. You survived long enough to expose them." I thought of Michael, of Sarah, of David, of all the others who hadn't escaped the attic, the poison, the lake house. What happens now? Now, Rodriguez smiled. Now you heal. And then you help us make sure they never hurt anyone again. I looked out the hospital window at the city skyline. Somewhere out there, my family was in cells, facing justice. Their perfect plan had failed, because they forgot the first rule of murder: never give your victim time to think, and never ever lock them in a room full of evidence. 1 year later, I stood in the courthouse watching my family face sentencing. The trial had been brutal: months of evidence, testimony about decades of calculated murders, all centered around inheritance money. Mom got life without parole for orchestrating the murders. Dad received 40 years for his role in the killings and cover-ups. Kate took a plea deal, 25 years in exchange for revealing where all the bodies were buried. Literally, I testified about everything: the attic, the poison, the evidence I found. The prosecution called me their star witness, but really the stars were the dead. Michael, Sarah, David, and 5 others we discovered. Their stories finally told, their murders finally avenged. After the sentencing, Rodriguez found me in the hallway. "How are you holding up?" I touched the scar on my arm from where they'd taken blood samples to document the thallium poisoning. "Better than they are." He nodded toward the courtroom doors. "Want to know something interesting? Your grandfather had been gathering evidence for years. That's why he changed his will, to force their hand, make them reveal themselves. He used me as bait," I realized. "He used you as justice. He knew you were the strongest one, the one who'd survive and fight back." The Victorian house was sold, its proceeds split between the victims' families. I couldn't keep it, not with its memories of that night, but before it sold, I went back one last time. The attic was empty now, just dusty floors and faded wallpaper. But standing there, I could almost hear the echoes. The lock turning, the dumbwaiter creaking, Michael's voice through the pipes warning me from beyond the grave. My family had built their fortune on murder, using poison and patience to eliminate anyone who threatened their control of the inheritance. But they'd never understood the true poison they created, the toxic legacy that finally destroyed them. I found Grandpa's grave and laid flowers. His journal had saved my life, his careful planning giving me the tools I needed to survive. He'd known what his own daughter had become, and he'd done what he could to stop her. The trust fund money was redistributed to the victims' families. I kept nothing except the evidence: photos, files, recordings. Not as mementos, but as reminders that sometimes the most dangerous predators wear friendly faces and share your blood. Rodriguez called last week. He's using our case to train FBI agents about inheritance-related murders. "Your story saves lives," he said. "People recognize the warning signs now." The warning signs. Like how Mom always volunteered to bring food to sick relatives. How Dad handled all the medical paperwork. How Kate kept track of everyone's inheritance details. How they turned murder into a family business. I still get letters from them sometimes, Mom's filled with guilt trips and manipulation, Dad's with angry accusations, Kate's with hollow apologies. I don't read them anymore. Their words are just more poison, and I've had enough of that for one lifetime. Instead, I started a foundation helping young people escape toxic families. We provide legal aid, safe houses, and support networks. Every success story is another victory against the darkness that nearly claimed me. The Victorian house was demolished last month. They're building a domestic violence shelter in its place. Somehow, that feels right, turning a place of death into one of sanctuary. Sometimes at night, I dream of the attic, but in my dreams now, I'm not the victim anymore. I'm the survivor who broke the chain, who turned family secrets into family justice. Rodriguez says they'll never get out of prison. Mom's appeals have all failed. Dad's health is failing. Kate writes true crime books from her cell, trying to profit one last time from family tragedy. But their legacy of murder died in that attic with me, the victim who lived, the prisoner who escaped, the target who became the weapon of their destruction. I visited Michael's grave yesterday. We did it. I told him. We stopped them. All of us, you, me, Grandpa, everyone they tried to silence. We spoke up. We fought back. We won. The Foundation's first safe house opens next week. We're naming it after Michael. The plaque will read, "Sometimes survival is the sweetest revenge." That's what I learned in the attic. Survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about living well enough to make sure justice is served. My family thought they were writing my ending. Instead, I wrote theirs. And this ending, it's just the beginning.